You've heard the stories about blackouts turning cities dark. What people don't talk about is what fills the silence afterward. No flames, no screams. Just a gas you can't see, smell, or feel until your body is already failing. Carbon monoxide doesn't announce itself. It doesn't rush. It waits. After the lights go out, people don't panic first. They improvise. They look for heat, for power, for something familiar that makes the dark feel temporary. That's where the danger starts. Carbon monoxide isn't a disaster. It's a byproduct of normal behavior continuing when the system that made it safe is gone. Engines run in enclosed spaces. Fuel burns without ventilation. Rooms become sealed boxes. Biology doesn't argue with chemistry. When oxygen drops, your brain doesn't sound an alarm. It gets quiet. Judgment softens. Sleep feels heavier. That's why this kills experienced adults, not reckless ones. Rule: the most dangerous threats after a blackout are the ones that feel normal. Carbon monoxide doesn't chase you. It accumulates. First you feel tired, then confused. Then you stop making decisions at all. By the time the body realizes something is wrong, the math is already settled. This isn't about fear. It's about invisible systems quietly changing the air you depend on. When the grid fails, danger doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like warmth, routine, and one last normal night that never reaches morning.
The mistake isn't ignorance. It's trust. Trust that the habits you've used your whole life will still behave the same way when the systems around them shut off. Power outages change the rules of enclosed space. Ventilation stops. Fans go quiet. Sensors go dark. The invisible safeguards that normally dilute exhaust and pull danger away simply vanish. But the sources stay active. Heat sources, engines, burners. Anything that consumes fuel keeps doing what it's always done, producing carbon monoxide as a waste product. Rule: when circulation stops, byproducts don't leave, they stay. And staying is enough. Carbon monoxide doesn't need chaos to kill. It needs patience. It builds concentration slowly, evenly, until the air itself becomes a delivery system. The body doesn't recognize it as a threat because evolution never trained us to detect poison without scent or irritation. There's no coughing fit, no pain spike, just a subtle loss of clarity. People sit down because they feel weak. They lie down because rest feels reasonable. That's the trap. The moment you stop reacting is the moment the gas wins. After the lights go out, danger isn't always outside. Sometimes it's the air quietly turning against you while everything feels calm enough to sleep.
This is how the timeline actually unfolds. Not in minutes, in moods. The air changes first, but you don't notice that. What you notice is fatigue, a dull pressure behind the eyes, thoughts that take a little longer to finish. Carbon monoxide steals clarity before it steals consciousness. That's what makes it effective. You don't feel attacked. You feel inconvenienced. People misread that signal and adapt the wrong way. They sit down. They stay put. They decide to wait it out. Rule: poisons that don't hurt immediately don't trigger escape. They trigger patience. And patience is lethal here. As levels rise, judgment collapses quietly. The part of the brain that would normally say something is wrong is the first thing compromised. That's why this doesn't look like panic. It looks like compliance. Rooms stay silent. Lights stay off. Bodies stay where they are. By the time physical symptoms become undeniable, the body no longer has the coordination or awareness to act on them. This isn't a chase. It's a narrowing. Each minute removes options without announcing it's doing so. Carbon monoxide doesn't overpower you. It convinces you nothing needs to be done. And when nothing is done long enough, the outcome stops being reversible.
This is where the false comfort settles in. People assume danger announces itself. Fire smells like smoke. Gas smells like sulfur. Threats hurt. Carbon monoxide breaks that rule. It feels neutral, familiar, almost domestic. The room doesn't change dramatically. Nothing crashes or alarms. The environment looks safe enough to stay. That's the problem. Rule: the more ordinary a threat feels, the longer people tolerate it. After the lights go out, routines continue out of inertia. Someone runs a machine a little longer. Someone keeps a heat source going because the night is cold. Someone closes a door to keep the warmth in. Each of those choices makes sense in isolation. Together, they create a sealed system with no exit for what's being produced. The danger isn't recklessness, it's continuity. Carbon monoxide kills because it fits perfectly inside normal behavior. It doesn't demand a new decision. It rewards the old one. By the time the room stops feeling right, the body is already operating on borrowed clarity, and borrowed clarity doesn't last. This is how the quiet killer works. Not by forcing you to act, but by letting you believe there's no reason to.
There is a point where this stops being a problem and becomes an outcome. It's not marked by pain. It's marked by stillness. The moment your body loses the ability to interpret discomfort as danger, the window closes. Rule: when judgment degrades faster than symptoms escalate, escape becomes unlikely. Carbon monoxide works on that schedule. By the time coordination fades, the option to move is already compromised. People don't collapse dramatically. They sit, they lie down, they drift. The room doesn't change. The night doesn't feel urgent. That's why rescue so often arrives to quiet scenes that look almost peaceful. The system failed earlier, when circulation stopped and safeguards went dark. Everything after that was just chemistry finishing its work. This isn't about being careless. It's about invisible thresholds being crossed without sensation. Once that threshold is passed, the body can't negotiate its way back. Awareness doesn't spike. Fear doesn't surge. The air simply stops supporting life while pretending nothing is wrong. And that's the moment that decides the night. The takeaway isn't about fear. It's about understanding that modern life quietly depends on systems you never notice until they disappear. Electricity doesn't just give you light. It gives you circulation, dilution, and escape for things your body can't fight on its own. When that system shuts off, normal behavior becomes hazardous without changing its appearance. Rule: after a blackout, the most dangerous actions are the ones that still feel routine. Carbon monoxide doesn't require panic to win. It requires continuity. The continuation of habits built for a world where safeguards are always running in the background. This is why the threat is so effective. It hides inside comfort. It borrows the shape of warmth, familiarity, and rest. Awareness isn't about memorizing warnings. It's about recognizing when the environment has stopped carrying risk away for you. When the lights go out, the air becomes part of the system you're negotiating with, and systems don't care how reasonable your last decision felt. They only care about thresholds. Cross the wrong one, quietly, and the night decides for you.
Carbon monoxide doesn't end stories with alarms. It ends them with unanswered messages, cold rooms, and the assumption that nothing went wrong. That's what makes it dangerous. Not speed, not violence. Silence. After the lights go out, people don't think they are in danger. They think they are waiting. Waiting for morning. Waiting for power. Waiting for things to return to normal. But the system that made normal safe is already gone. The air has changed roles without changing how it feels. By the time the mistake is visible from the outside, it's no longer correctable from the inside. This isn't about panic or preparedness. It's about understanding that some threats don't announce themselves because they don't need to. They rely on the absence of interruption. Carbon monoxide doesn't force a choice. It benefits from the lack of one. And that's the final trap. When danger looks like rest, routine, and one more quiet hour, the body follows it willingly. The lights go out. The room stays calm. And the system finishes its work without ever raising its voice.
That's the ending. This is the quiet close. where nothing explodes and no one realizes a decision was even made. Carbon monoxide doesn't win by surprise. It wins by permission. Permission granted through routine, trust, and the assumption that tomorrow will arrive before anything matters. When the lights go out, people don't feel threatened. They feel inconvenience. They adapt gently. They make the smallest possible changes to get through the night. And that's enough. The danger never needed panic. It only needed time in a sealed space where safeguards used to exist. This is why carbon monoxide remains one of the most lethal threats after outages. Not because people don't know it's dangerous, but because it never feels urgent until urgency is no longer available. The system that protected you quietly stepped away, and the air took advantage of that absence. There's no villain here, no dramatic failure, just chemistry finishing what routine started. The lights go out, the room stays still, and the most dangerous thing in the house never looks like danger at all.